Chapter 5. Impact. Within a couple of hours, we were bucking around through deep purple clouds somewhere over Iowa. Rain was pelting the plane's windshield so hard that we had to shout at one another to be heard. After a while, it was not worth the effort. The only one who still had anything to say was Christina.
Leonard Skinnerd!
Suddenly, there was a clearing in the clouds. In front of us was something unexplainable. A huge black silhouette the shape of a massive football, but so large it filled the front windshield. The massive shape was wider than it was tall, and we were not entirely sure how far off the ground we were, so the pilot tried to climb in the vain hope of going over it. He jerked back on the control yoke, assuming the plane would leap up as well, but the plane was small, and the weather was fierce, and the plane had no noticeable response other than violently shaking. The passengers in the plane now screamed in fear, and the pilot looked frantic. The dark silhouette was too big, our plane was too poorly powered, and the pilot was outwitted by a lack of response from his controls. Soon the shadow filled our view, and the last thing I remember was the dashboard of our plane crushing the pilot and his chair into my legs. When I woke, I was disoriented, cold, wet, and there was blood on my face and a crushing pain in my legs because they were pinned by the pilot's seat in front of me. From my viewpoint, our plane was precariously squished to the side of a cliff. The tail of the plane was missing. It had broken off just behind Christina and my seat, and the rest of the band was nowhere to be seen. In times like these, people tend to shut down parts of their brain so they can deal with the task at hand. I did this now, ignoring my many missing bandmates and burying all my emotional trauma to deal with later. I looked through the broken windshield. Impossibly, the cliff seemed to be made of canvas. There was no going out through the windshield. That way was blocked by the wet fabric cliff. The right window of the cockpit was shattered but still intact, and the combination of pelting rain and the spider web of cracks in the glass made it impossible to see through. Our only escape route was through the missing left side window. I saw a rope ladder just within reach of the window. In fact, our entire plane seemed to be hanging from rope ladders. They started above us, dropping into the black abyss below. This left us with a tricky decision. Climb up to where the ladder stayed close to the cliff, which seemed to level off, or climb down to where the rope ladder dangled over the black abyss. Finally, after a little discussion in the raging rain, we decided to go down was best. This cursed trip was not going to be over until we got down from wherever we were, so, after a few minutes of struggling to push what was left of the pilot out of our way, we went down. As we descended, the ladder separated from the side of the cliff, and we came to the most baffling scene yet. There was a sailing ship hanging from hundreds of massive ropes in the blackness of the sky. It was made of ornately carved wood like a classic pirate ship, but copper and brass machinery protruded from huge sections of it, as well as giant glass orbs filled with swirling pink gas that glowed dimly. Networks of glass and copper tubes occasionally shot little lighted capsules through them. At least a dozen weathered figures in long oiled raincoats, leather helmets, and massive goggles ran on deck, climbing the ropes in a general panic and looking like enraged ants when you step on their anthill. We clambered down over the railing, and I noticed Christina was shivering. Not from fear, mind you, but from the icy cold, wet, and pure exhaustion of the day's misadventure. I hoisted her with one arm, unnoticed by the crew, and we headed for a large door in the aft of the ship. Swinging open the door, we found that it led to one of the most beautifully furnished living rooms I'd ever been in. Deep leather sofas, chandeliers swinging as the ship swung on its ropes, edged tables filled with glass bottles of all shapes and sizes, now rolling around on a bar. Some had fallen and smashed on the floor. A massive wing-backed chair lay overturned just behind a huge brass captain's wheel, and what I guessed was a periscope showed the view out the front of the ship. Suspended from the ceiling was a very detailed model of what looked like a pirate ship hanging under a zeppelin. The pirate ship was bristling with cannons surrounded with miniature glass orbs and tubes. Could this be where we stood now? On a flying ship, hanging under a massive zeppelin? Some Victorian-era airship? This certainly accounted for what we had seen so far. I could see the canvas cliff rope ladder we descended, and the railing we climbed over, and the deck we stumbled across. All in miniature. The far wall of this room was fitted with ornate stained glass panels, gorgeous deep reds, greens, and teals, with gilded leading cut to depict different nautical and aeronautical themes. Just outside the windows, two massive propellers could be seen spinning furiously, and there was a man-sized hole in the glass wall just behind the captain's overturned chair. Near the hole stood two silhouettes engaged in somber debate, looking quite distressed.
Well, he was sitting right in his chair, wasn't he?
Asked the tallest silhouette.
Where is he now? Did he fall through the glass?
Asked the silhouette next to him, pointing to the hole in the window. This was Tanner. He wore a plain black bowler, huge boots that came nearly to his knees, a ragged vest which might at one time have been an army field jacket.
Yes, it looks like he went right through the window. You'd better tell Dr. Calgary what happened.
Daniel then turned to leave, but as he did, he noticed us.
Who are you?
I'm Robert, and this is Christina. We're really sorry to be here, but I'm afraid we... And just in the middle of speaking, the man with the bowler turned and slipped and fell to the floor. As he tried to get up, he slipped again. When he looked at his hands, they were covered with blood, as was the floor around him.